Hi, my name is Justine Harkness, and in this video, we'll look at how to identify components of circuits. There are four main components that can be found in a typical circuit. The first one is a resistor. Resistors dissipate energy, and in circuits, they are denoted by this zigzaggy appearance. Now, we see resistors in everyday life, things like light bulbs and toasters. So the way that a light bulb works is you have a filament that you pass a current through. Now, when we pass that current through the light bulb filament, it has a very high resistance, meaning that it can dissipate a lot of energy. This is what we see as a light. All the light that comes off of this light bulb is the energy dissipated by that resistor. In toasters, whenever you have current running through the heating elements, they start to glow red. They dissipate energy as heat that you can use to toast your toast. Our next element is a battery. These provide a voltage source. In order to have running current, you must have a voltage. In a circuit, we denote batteries by the symbol here, where the longer line is the positive terminal and the shorter line is the negative terminal. If you only have one battery in a circuit, you will always see current moving from the positive terminal if it's flowing spontaneously through the circuit. In everyday life, you may have remembered testing 9-volt batteries on your tongue. Those batteries have a positive and negative sign on it, which corresponds to the negative and positive terminal of the battery. The fact that it is a 9-volt battery tells us that the voltage of the battery is in fact 9 volts. We also have capacitors. These function to store charges, and we see them as parallel plates. One example of a capacitor is one that's found in your wireless router. If you've ever had some issues getting your Wi-Fi running, one thing that you always do is you unplug it and you plug it back in. However, they always tell you to wait like 10 seconds after you unplug it before you plug it in. That is so the capacitors in your router have time to fully discharge, so you can completely reset the router. Finally, we have switches, and these are used to connect different paths of a circuit, and we see the symbol here where this guy here is the switch. And we have two different arms of the circuit on either side. We see these every single day. You probably use them 10 or more times a day. These are in your house. They are light switches, which either connect the circuit to turn on the light or disconnect the circuit to turn off the light. So let's take a look at an example circuit and identify our circuit elements. Now, the first thing I like to look for is the battery. So we're going to look for two parallel lines where one is longer than the other. And we see that on the far left. This would be our battery. That longer line would be our positive terminal, and that shorter line would be the negative terminal. Going around, we see a series of zigzagging lines. This is one of our resistors. We also have a switch. Now, as drawn, this switch here isn't really connected, so there would be no current flowing through the circuit. But if we were to move the switch over to the left, we could connect the battery to the resistor to the capacitor, and this is one way that we can charge a capacitor. Now, we can also move the switch over to the right, and this would connect the capacitor to the resistor, which, if the capacitor is charged, would then discharge current through the resistor. And we will be talking about how this charging and discharging of capacitors happens in later videos. And below the switch, we see two parallel lines of equal length. This would be a capacitor. And finally, we have another resistor. So now you should feel more comfortable identifying components of circuits.